We've all heard people refer to themselves as apolitical or just simply not interested in politics. But what does that really mean? Are they neutral, or staying out of politics just another way to continue apathetic tendencies without admitting it? Today, we're unpacking what neutrality actually means, pressure to have opinions on everything, the role of celebrities in this, and how performative virtue can hide in plain sight. You're listening to Fed Up at Figuring It Out, unpacking politics, culture, and global power. If you ever thought, why does this all feel like bullshit? You're in the right place. I'm your host, Priya Migneault. As always, everything said throughout this episode will be in this episode's description. To kick us off, let's talk about what neutrality actually means. To start, neutrality isn't bad. It's not a bad thing to be. Neutrality means being unconvinced or uninformed about an issue, or just staying neutral. Like if you're like, I'm neutral to pineapple on pizza because you don't hate it and you don't like it, that's neutrality. It can even be understanding both sides without swaying one way or the other. So there's a slight difference though in our modern world. And we've seen this more and more with people saying they're apolitical or not interested in politics or just staying neutral. And it's fine to be neutral on many things in life, but it's not fine when it comes to certain human rights violations and the things we're seeing in our current modern day. So there's like a type of healthy neutrality, which is waiting to learn the facts, to understand the situation. That is a healthy way to approach neutrality. If you don't know everything about a subject, you are more than welcome not to have a full, solid opinion on that subject. There is also a harmful neutrality, though, which is avoiding taking a stance because it makes you uncomfortable. It causes discomfort. In healthy neutrality, you also might think both sides have valid points. And you might just be like, I can't agree with either fully because I'm in the middle. That also means that you've tried to understand the issue to some degree and that your learning you didn't stop learning because you were afraid of not being neutral. The challenges with unhealthy neutrality is that people are often doing it. They try to protect themselves in this box of not knowing to not deal with the uncomfortable truth of knowing because knowing can make things very uncomfortable for people. I think in our current day, we hear a lot about, oh, they're neutral on this issue, or like people are taking enough of a stance. And you know what? It is exhausting to have to take a stance on everything. There's like this immense pressure for people, especially because of online and social media like relations. There's this pressure to take a stance on every trending issue. And it's exhausting and frankly really unrealistic. There are 8 billion people in the world. You cannot care about every single issue every single day. You can't care about every single issue even if you had your entire lifetime to care about every single issue. But staying in a box of not knowing isn't helpful. And so the way I recommend that we approach it is approaching it with curiosity over certainty. You don't have to be certain of anything, but being curious about a subject is helpful. And it's okay to not know, but it's not okay to just stop there and then still keep forming opinions. We can't engage with everything. It's impossible to stay informed on all global crises, and trying to can lead to burnout and compassion fatigue. There's like an information overload in our digital age. One human was not meant to know this much stuff happening all at once. We are meant to know what was in our immediate communities, and that's pretty much it for our entire lives. That's what we were designed to do as animals. And now we are bombarded with all this information from all around the world, and it is important, but it's also very, very overwhelming for the brain. To combat this overwhelming amount of news, people are kind of expected to post and post and post and talk about every single issue. And the problem is that in this situation, when people post, I've also seen people call it slacktivism. So when the Black Lives Matter protests were happening in the States, I know that there was a Blackout Tuesday thing, and people posted, I think it was Blackout Tuesday, but people posted black squares on their Instagram. And people called it performative activism and slacktivism. You're not getting involved, you're just posting and not doing anything, which I think is a load of bullshit. Not just about the Black Lives Matter thing. I think a lot of people are like, if you're just posting about something like the Palestinian Israel conflict or what's happening in the States or women's rights and things like this, If you're just posting about it, you're not doing anything. And I'm like, that's not true. It's simply just not true. And I would actually argue that it's a branch of cancel culture. If you're posting about an issue, you're still raising awareness about that issue in your circles and having conversations in real life about the issues you post about. Sometimes there's nothing left to do but repost and talk about it on social media. And that's all right. None of us are in Congress. None of us are in the House of Commons. We get to decide who we vote for, which is very important. But at the end of the day, we are not in government. We don't make those final calls. To expect people to take on the weight of the world, like if every time I want to be show that I care about an issue or talk about an issue, I have to know everything about it and like volunteer and donate for it. It's like you're gonna maybe do that for like an initiative a year, two initiatives a year, like nothing crazy. And so posting about it actually, in my opinion, does do quite a bit. You don't have to care about every single issue because empathy is quite difficult to continue having, and you can get burnt out quite quickly. Like, if you care about every single issue in the world, you're going to burn out. There is no way around it. The average person sees hundreds of social issues on their phone. I mean, depending on your echo chamber, but in my echo chamber specifically, I see hundreds of different social issues a month. I think collectively, all of our attention spans have dropped. We can't care about everything all at once. And honestly, it's made a lot of people apathetic just seeing social problem after social problem because, again, our brains were not meant to handle it. There's this quote by Desmond Tutu. I'm kind of saying that wrong, I'm sure, but it's, quote, "If you are neutral in situations of injustice, you've chosen the side of the oppressor," unquote. I think that's a load of horseshit, to be frank with you, because sometimes you can't deal with everything, and that doesn't mean you're the oppressor. Like, if you're like, I can't deal with like, I can't mentally take on another initiative on top of the ones I'm already caring about. It doesn't make you the oppressor. It just means you're burnt out and dealing with other things. You just can't care about everything all at once. I'm not saying that being neutral in instances of injustice is okay, but I am saying that you care about a couple things, but you can't care about everything. And that doesn't make you a bad person for not caring about everything. Sometimes both sides as well have strong arguments that you understand, and that doesn't mean you're the oppressor. If the issue is apparent, however, and what is right and wrong is obvious, then yeah, if you stay neutral, you are siding with the oppressor. Like, for example, if you still haven't decided where you stand with the Israel and Palestine conflict, go screw yourself. In the nicest way, you've decided that you're on the oppressor side because if you're like, I'm still neutral, and it's like the leading experts in the world have called it a genocide, it's like, you're not neutral, you're actually okay with what's happening, which is a huge concern. You're honestly, if you are like, I just don't want to pick a side, it's because you're too scared to admit that you're okay with genocide because it makes you look like a bad person, and it should make you look like a bad person. So what does matter, though, is trying to stay aware of an issue or simply putting it on the back burner to focus on other issues eating up your activist time or eating up your mental emotional capacity. But this brings me to another question. Do we really need our favorite pop stars or influencers to be political commentators? There is this expectation around celebrities for some reason that they have to have this sense of moral leadership. Fans expect moral leadership from their celebrities and political guidance in a way. I mean, I'm a big Swiftie and obviously a Swiftie, so I'm biased. But for example, Taylor Swift has been criticized a couple times for staying silent and for speaking out. During the last US election campaign, she made a post supporting Harris, and saying that she wanted nothing to do with Trump. She's also supported gay rights through a bunch of her, like, through her music. You Need to Calm Down. She's been an advocate for that. If you watched her Heirs Tour documentary, she also mentions that she's an advocate for it. And for women's rights as well, she's been an advocate for that. And all of those things have got her heat. Like, all of them. They have been great things. I'm happy she's done them. But at the same time, they have caused people to dislike her and threaten her. And that's not cool. But I also, it's good that she spoke up about these things. But then people are mad with her because she's not speaking about the current situation in the United States, about with the ICE situation, or with the Israel and the Gaza conflict. And here's the thing, is that she's already spoken out about a couple of issues. She has. She has made her stance clear on a couple of issues. She does not need to make her stance clear on every issue. And don't get me wrong, I'm like, yes, it would be lovely if she posted something in support of these or made some sort of commentary on these situations. But at the same time, it's not her job. It is not her job to do that. She is a celebrity. She's a singer. She's good at her job. Her job is not political commentation. Celebrities as a whole aren't experts, and their platforms don't make them authorities on this situation. As I said, it's the vast majority, it's not their job to do these things. And fans aren't all connected on the same issues and have differing opinions. That doesn't mean that an artist shouldn't post or an influencer shouldn't post about certain issues. But that does say they're not going to please everyone when they post. Why do fans want their celebrities so badly to post about these things when they are not necessarily educated on the subject or have the more like actual moral authority to talk about the subject or want to talk about the subject? In a Forbes article from 2023, there was a discussion on whether or not artists like Beyonce have a responsibility to speak out about injustice. So the article explores what role celebrities should play, if any, in addressing injustice, especially given the resurgence of celebrity responsibility conversations. In the article, it argues that Beyonce is held to an unrealistic standard and that when she fails to live up to public ideals, her fans and people get angry with her or upset with her. And this is like many other celebrities. This was during a time in Beyonce's career when she was starting to like allude to certain systems and certain social problems in her music and in her style. Quote, some expected Beyonce's newfound candor, particularly when it came to Black issues, would translate into the singer lending her voice to different social issues that impact African diaspora locally and globally, end quote. I remember when the music video Formation came out and she was making commentary on Black people and their relationship with the police and the relationship with the government and the relationship after environmental disaster. And just because she commented on this one aspect of being African American, why would people expect her to commentate on other things that other Black people were struggling with? Like it's a bit of an unrealistic expectation, especially when we ourselves can't deal with every issue. Why would a celebrity be able to? And so there's been a bit of a backlash on Beyonce, according to this article, because she hasn't been speaking out about situations impacting other African or Black communities. And they were cited like the Dominican Republic of Congo, Haiti, Ethiopia, as well as Sudan. People have argued that Beyonce uses the aesthetics when it's beneficial, but is quiet when it comes to addressing inequalities directly. And that's a fair comment. I'm not going to say it's not a fair comment. But she also has talked about the African American experience through her art and through her music. I don't know. It's a bit insane. If one person from a specific descending group makes commentary on one aspect of a situation and you're like, no, you have to comment all of it actually. It's like, what are you talking about? So how on earth is she supposed to care about all these issues when we ourselves can't keep up with all these issues? Quote, she's a pop star, not a politician. She hasn't really spoken out on things. She uses her artistry as a vehicle for activism. That is her contribution to the world. End quote. And this comes from the Forbes article by Dr. Candace Parrish. Doctor does recommend that people go and support people you know who will talk about the issues you care about, but don't jump down someone else's throat to make them talk about an issue you care about. And yes, activism can be used to promote someone's image, but is that still not activism? I'm not saying it's right, but at the same time, is that still not contributing to showcasing the problem and showcasing the injustice of the world? The upside is that there is some artists who really do use their voice and really do speak out about certain issues, and this can be like Billie Eilish. She's been very strong advocate for environmentalism, body image, veganism, and women's rights, especially with the overturning of Roe v. Wade. And Macklemore, for example, he's been very supportive of gay rights and even the Palestinian people with some of his songs like Same Love and Heinz Hall. So I understand wanting celebrities to speak out, but the downside is that it just creates a constant noise that drowns out experts' voices and can spread misinformation. When everyone talks about everything, the volume goes up, but the clarity goes down. So if everyone's talking about issues and we end up losing focus, and when we lose focus, we start spreading things that aren't even true. Spreading misinformation kind of ties back to the episode on echo chambers we previously talked about, but social media amplifies every person's voice, but not every voice adds value. We kind of live in this attention economy, and ties back to the dopamine aspect of it. The more we post, the less we actually process. We're not thinking again about the things that we're seeing because we're seeing so much. Trend cycles online are also really fast. Like you'll see something and it'll be trendy for like a week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe a month. and then it's gone. And that's not how you solve systemic injustices, because are there's a long process to that. Solutions and activism do not really subscribe to this attention economy and this trend cycle that we are seeing online. So how many of us actually fact check before reposting? Again, tying back to echo chambers, if we see a post that's something we've seen echoed before or aligns more closely with what we're seeing, we might just believe it. We might not think anything of it. So it is so important that you check before you post. I cannot articulate that enough. To be honest with you, sometimes staying silent until you know better is safer than sharing misinformation just to look aware. And this is not to say I'm asking for perfection. I understand there's concern about people waiting to be perfect before they get involved. And that's a huge problem with a lot of the social issues we're seeing. People in there are like, we need to be perfect before we say anything. And it's like, I'm not asking you for perfection. I'm asking you for some semblance of responsibility as to what you're sharing. Because the problem is that silence sometimes becomes complicity. And that is where the myth of neutrality really begins. Here's the thing. True neutrality doesn't actually exist. It is only the privilege to feel neutral that we have. In situations where the facts are fully laid out, people rarely choose neutrality, or they rarely agree with neutrality, but they still will ignore these issues, and that's when it becomes apolitical. Apolitical or not political is described as having no interest in politics, not affiliated with a certain political party, or having strong apathy or frustration towards politics and political conversation. People can choose to be apolitical for a multitude of reasons, including feeling overwhelmed by complex issues, the impact of voter input, echo chambers, socioeconomic barriers, lack of education, polarization, and more. There was a lot of reasons that people are apolitical. Being apolitical has existed forever, like since we've had forms of government. But today we are seeing people using apoliticism as a veil for ignorance, and those involved in politics rerouting their acceptance of apoliticism. So people are now saying they're apolitical just to say that they are going to be and being okay with remaining ignorant to situations. Writer Emily Dorsey points out, quote, many Americans are using apoliticism in an act of cowardness. They'd rather claim to be apolitical than confront catastrophes happening in real time. Being apolitical means you are privileged and unaffected by the politics happening right now, if not benefiting from them. Apolitical people believe they are doing the right thing by staying out of politics. But topics like LGBTQ plus rights, immigration issues, reproductive health care, disability education, and more will never benefit from apoliticism. Our country and the world's political climate will never benefit from apoliticism. End quote. The thing is, not everyone can be apolitical, and that's the crazy thing. The comfort of apolitical is not universal. When people say, I don't want to get into politics, what they often mean is it doesn't affect me enough for me to care, and that's a privilege. If you're not scared when certain leaders are elected, if your rights aren't up for debate every few years, if the system more or less works for you, then yes, it is easier to look away. But for others, politics isn't a news cycle, it's their life. It's fine not to have strong opinions on everything, like which stocks to invest in or what your favorite food is. You don't need to agree hardly. Like, you don't need to have hard opinions on these things. But for example, when human rights and lives are involved, should one continue to stay ignorant and silent? Should one remain neutral in issues that have large and real life consequences? If politics don't affect you directly, you have the privilege to stay out of them. But that doesn't exist, for example, for people, trans people. Their lives are consistently political. They cannot not be political. That also goes for people of color, including Indigenous and Black communities. There is not really an option to be apolitical. Your life and your rights are consistently up for debate pretty much every 4 years. That matters. You can't stay out of politics because it's your life. Those things affect you. But at the same time, everyday politics affect everyone. Like, if you care about roads and transit, the rent prices, healthcare, who gets rights and who gets denied them, you are political. If you have any opinions on any of those things, you have a political opinion. I found this funny when I was on Reddit preparing for this podcast. I saw this like one user say, quote, because being apolitical is just about possible if you move to Antarctica and live in an igloo alone. Otherwise, your inaction is a political stance. Quote. And this is the thing, is neutrality has existed and apoliticism has existed forever. But there has been many cases in history where it's not been okay. And there's no reason that people should have been neutral in these issues. in these situations. And this includes the civil rights movement in the States. This includes Germans during Nazi Germany. Evil thrives when good people fail to act. And I'm sure we've all heard this poem, but I always think it's a good poem to reiterate. Martin Niemöller was a German theologist who supported Nazi Germany until he realized his mistake. After the war, he took initiative to spread theories of peace and apologized for his indifference towards the victims of Nazi rule. This is his poem, quote, "First they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me." You should probably do it before that because you should care about other people other than yourselves, but that is a really good poem, and I always think it's important to remember when you're faced with options of neutrality. When someone says, "I don't care about politics," they really mean I don't have to care about politics. This doesn't mean you need to have strong opinions one way or the other. That helps create polarization. And that also demonizes the middle ground. You are allowed to have a middle kind of opinion. But acting like you're immune to issues and politics and you're above talking about politics or willfully ignoring when other people's rights get trampled on, that's where the problem is. It's not just about silence, it's a contradiction. Saying that you care about justice without living it. And this kind of ties into like the good guy syndrome, where people say they stand for equality but never act on it, or say they're a good person but then never act in line with those values. I've seen this time and time again where people are like, "I support women and sexual assault is not okay." And it's like, but then they doubt victims and they blame women. And it's like, you actually aren't helping the situation at all. You're just acting like you're a good person so you can validate your own sense of morality. The intent without action perpetuates harm. It might make you feel better, but it doesn't make you a better person. So how do we move beyond pretending to care and start actually doing something? Choose your issues. It's not about having a stance on everything. It's about committing to something. It can mean helping a neighbor fill out a government form, donating to local mutual aid groups, reading about histories that you weren't taught in school. Please, for the love of God, this is so important. Read about histories you were not taught in school. Having a real conversation about race or gender or poverty and like really listening. Because maybe we need to redefine political. It doesn't mean partisan. Maybe it means you care about the world outside yourself. You don't have to have a strong political attachment to party. Actually, I think it's better if you're not fully attached to party. It's better that you are just involved and care about people outside of those who are like you. My advice is pick one or two causes you genuinely care about. Read deeply, follow grassroots voices, not influencers, not just influencers, okay? For the one or two causes you pick, make sure you're supporting local change. What is one issue you've stayed neutral on because it didn't affect you? And maybe that's where you start. Or maybe it is an issue that affects you in your community, and that is still an issue you can focus on. So maybe the real question isn't, should I care about everything? It's, where will I stop being neutral today? Some closing thoughts is that not knowing is okay. Avoiding problems and avoiding situations that make you comfortable isn't. Neutrality can often be privilege in disguise, and silence often protects the powerful, not the oppressed. Neutrality is not the enemy at the end of the day. It's apathy and apoliticism. The world doesn't need more people to say they're good. It needs more people who do good, even when no one is watching. Thanks for tuning in. If you had an aha moment or just enjoyed hanging out with me, pass this episode along to a friend, drop a quick review, and let's keep chatting over on Instagram. Sharing is caring, and it helps this podcast grow. I'll see you in the next episode.